All right, Kyle. So the train is pulling back into the station, at least at practice. Anyway, Val Nichushkin has somewhat returned. So we'll talk about that and what that means for the Avalanche. Could not come at a better time, even if we'll have to wait a few games for him to come back. There's the next game right now against Dallas. We'll talk about that as well. New episode of Locked On Avalanche coming at you.
You're Locked On Avalanche, your daily podcast on the Colorado Avalanche. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Locked On Avalanche podcast. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Chris Maselli. With me, as always, Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. Thank you for tuning in, making it your first listen of the day. Always appreciated. Make sure you're following us on social media, LOPN_Avalanche on Twitter X, Locked On Avalanche on Instagram and Threads. Questions, comments, concerns, and opinions, lockedonavalanche@gmail.com. And make sure you're following us over on YouTube. Hit subscribe, get notified when a new show goes live. And definitely subscribe to that subtext. Link to that is in the show notes down below. And when you do, you chat with Kyle and I one-on-one, share your opinions on everything Avalanche on this very podcast. All right. If you're listening or watching on YouTube, third segment will be an interesting one. There's a lot going on with this Fanatics stuff. It's kind of funny, but also concerning if you're a hockey fan. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. And we'll do the Dallas matchup, which is a big game Tuesday night in Colorado. But we got to start with the big news. Val Nichushkin has come back to the team at practice anyway. And this is kind of following the mold of what happened with Sam Girard. You have to get approval for this stuff from the players assistance program. You have to get approval to go back to practice, and then you have to get approval to go play, apparently. So he has gotten the approval to go back to practice. So it was, and you saw videos coming out of some of the people who were at the practice facility, and I cannot help but think this is a bigger like boon to this team, maybe more so than a trade could be, if you ask me.
Yeah, and Val Nichushkin, he is an essential member of this team. It's one of the beautiful story of Dallas gave up on him, and he found a second life in Colorado, and he's the heart and soul. Like he doesn't say a lot, but he speaks on the ice, and he's got his antics. He's goofy. He's fun, but my goodness, his contributions on the ice are just second to none. So it's one of those, the light is at the end of the tunnel. Like, he's coming back. He's going to help the team. It's not going to be tomorrow. It's not going to be today. And by the way, if you're hearing this, it's Chris Maselli's birthday. So please, while we're waiting on Nuke to get here, please give the captain of
it was a day early birthday present for Val Nichushkin to return to the Avalanche.
He's like, hey buddy, I'm coming for you. But please wish Chris a happy birthday. But and most of all, like when it comes to Nichushkin, it's positive, but you also are going to be thinking about how the lines are going to look. And I saw like what they were kind of running in practice, and it makes you think a little bit. But how soon can he start contributing to this roster and this line? Is it going to be an immediate like switch turn on, or is it going to be, because the last time he came back from injury, it was a slow build back into Nichushkin and getting back into form, like,
right? But this is an injury. This is not injury, right? So this is I think the way that things have been going for the Avalanche lately, Jared Bednar is throwing him right into the top line and just saying like, here, like let's get back to business immediately, and we're going to need you to do that. And it's different because it's not an injury, right? It's you just got to get back into, get your legs, get your stamina back up, which for someone like him who keeps himself in great shape should not take too long. You're going to have, you got the Stars game, which is out. And you saw something where he's not going to be anywhere this week. So those 2 games on the road, he won't be there, you said, right?
Yeah, per Bednar, this is coming from Evan Rawl, Colorado Hockey Now. He said that he's not even going to make the road trip.
Okay. So we're looking at March 4th at home against the Blackhawks. at the earliest, which
And
is
I'm not
a
sure
week
if
away.
you saw what they were running him in practice and what combination.
I saw that he was on like the fourth line. He was like the fourth player on the fourth line, which I didn't have a problem. It's his first day back. They're easing him back into it. I wouldn't read
And
too much into that.
the hypothetical running out there is top line being Lehkonen, Nathan McKinnon, Mikko Rantanen. You
Yes,
have your
that is
Roaring
happening.
20s line. And then you have Nuke, Ryjo, and Zach Parise on your third line.
Oh, you mean for when? So you're saying that could be that maybe is your
That's where,
line for game one when he's back?
yes,
Anything is possible. We know Jared Bednar. What he's putting out there today in practice is going to change tomorrow morning or even by the end of that practice. But it could go either way. Like the way that I'm sitting here thinking of it, if I was Jared Bednar, like I said, because of how it's going right now, you put him in that top line, and man, if that is not an endorphin high for that, for the whole roster, for that whole
that's true.
team, you throw him in there. At the least, if you want to put him on a third line just to get a game under, even I'll say this, if he starts on a third line for his first game back, he will not end there by the end of that game. I can almost guarantee you that. I think he'll be bumped up to the second line, or if he's on the second line, he'll go up to the first line. We know Jared Bednar likes to do that. But at the least, if he is starting on anywhere other than the first line for that first game, you can absolutely guarantee he is going to be on that power play unit, on that top power play
Oh,
unit,
yeah.
come
And,
whatever game he starts, because that is where he is needed the most.
and Bednar even made those comments himself. He mentioned you could look at the record with and without Nichushkin, and you could see where he's missed. You could see
Yeah,
how he's a battery. He keeps this thing going. And we talked about just how weak the power play has looked, even though they're trying and they have good looks. It just feels like there's a level they're not hitting. Nichushkin is that level. He's that
absolutely.
missing piece. And once he rejoins that power play, you see a little bit more potency in that power play, and then one more little wrinkle that the Avalanche can build on. So it's exciting that he can rejoin and get that power play going, but we got to wait a little bit more.
And the other area that he's great in is overtime. When it's 3-on-3 overtime, he just has that move where he'll just go up the right hand side and just power move it in front of a guy and either score a goal, get a goal, a shot on goal. So I mean, he just brings so much to this team. We talk about if Cale Makar is out with an injury, Nathan McKinnon's out with an injury, Mikko Rant, like all of those guys, and rightfully so. It's the proof is in the pudding, Kyle. It's there. You see the record. You see the record with him and without him over the past couple seasons. When he's been out, he brings so much to this team, and so much of what they are missing is with him. Now, I don't want to go as far as to say like this is like, oh, their trade, and they're still in the trade market. Like this helps them. This absolutely helps. This doesn't shut the door on trades at all, because you still have things that you need to address. But just because they're familiar with him, they know what he brings to the team. It's just bringing in a guy that where he is and what he's going to do and what he can bring, and it's immediate. And it's not that trade of bringing in a guy and he might need a few games to get acclimated, new city, new team, obviously everything that comes with that. That's not this. This is huge. This is big. So get a week of practice in. I'm guessing maybe that Chicago game, I would think you really couldn't think maybe more than a week, and he'll be back, right? I mean,
Yeah.
we'll see.
And I love that you mentioned like this is not the answer to the trade thing. Yes, Nichushkin is great. He's like in baseball terms that 5-tool player. Like Nichushkin, he's got quick hands, that snapshot, the slap shot. He could do things on and off the puck. He can get in front of the
Size.
goalie. Yeah, he's got
Yeah.
size. He could barrel. He could barrel in there. He could create an offensive zone transition by himself. He can power a play. He can fight for the puck. He can do it all. And you could put him anywhere, like you were talking about putting him on the top line. He can work wherever, however, wherever. And it's a great piece to have, but it's not the be-all, end-all. There's still things that need to be addressed on this team, but it's one less thing you have to worry about.
And how poetic would it be if the game that the Avalanche are playing Tuesday would have been his first game back against his former team, who he always plays well against. I would have went to FanDuel and put money down on a Nichushkin hat trick if this was his first game back, because that would have just been icing on the cake. Let's talk about that game a little bit. Avs and the Dallas Stars, always a big matchup, and this one is no different. So we'll talk about that coming up next. All right, let's talk about Sleeper. And once again, Kyle is scouring the internet, looking all over for a better daily fantasy hockey app than Sleeper. You had another day. Did you find one yet?
No, I think it's impossible at this point. Sleeper
At this point,
is the best.
We are still looking. So we want to remind you that you could win big by playing daily fantasy hockey on Sleeper, the official daily fantasy app of the Locked On NHL Network. Sleeper is our number one choice for daily fantasy sports and especially daily fantasy hockey, because with Sleeper, you can win 100 times your cash in daily fantasy hockey contests. And we're doing this read for 2 days in a row, Kyle. So give the people a bonus pick. You picked Arturi Lehkonen as your Sleeper player for daily fantasy hockey for tomorrow's game or Tuesday's game against the Stars. Give him another one.
I gave you an offensive player. I'm going to give you a defensive player for your bonus pick, and I'm going to go Sam Girard.
Love it. Who's playing very, very well so far. So all I have to do is pick whether studs like Sammy G will record more or less than the Sleeper projections for things like goals, assists, saves, plus minus, and more in a given game. So use the promo code LOCKEDONNHL and you'll get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That code is LOCKEDONNHL. See Sleeper's terms of use for details and locational availability. All right, so let's talk about the matchup between the Colorado Avalanche and the Dallas Stars. Obviously, always big when these two get together, and when it's a little bit later in the season, which is always nice, and a little bit more riding on it. For now, a big 2 points. So for the Avalanche, currently 75 points, 59 games played. The Dallas Stars, 78 points. They're playing in 59 games played. They're playing right now as we are recording this. And they're playing the Islanders. They're in Dallas. It's the first intermission, and they are losing 1-0 to the Islanders. So that game won't be over before we finish up this episode. So by the time you are listening to this in the morning, you will know what happened with that game. But we'll keep an eye on it as we're recording. So right there, you're getting a little bit of a head start on Dallas because they are going to be playing a back-to-back. But Dallas, clearly, I mean, they're leading the division right now. They're a solid team. They've been going through a little bit of a struggle recently, which is right after where they were a stretch where they were just dominant. In 9 games, they had 8 wins, but they followed that up with 4 straight losses. And they were 2 good teams except for one. Those losses, it started with Edmonton. And then it was the Bruins, and then it was the Rangers. So 3 really good teams. But then their 4th loss was against Ottawa, and it wasn't close. It was 4-1 Senators. They did follow that up with a solid win against the Hurricanes, 2-1, and now they're playing right now the Islanders. So we'll see where that goes. So, but clearly a very good team. Going to be a battle, like it always is.
Yeah, and Dallas needs to get up on the Islanders. So Patrick Wall pulls the goalie with 10 minutes to go in the third period and gets right back to what he's doing.
Sure, why not?
But no, this benefits the Avs. You get them on a back-to-back. That's great. And then the Avalanche, they're already 2-0 against Dallas already this year. They beat them handily in the first game, had to go to overtime in the second game. And you hope that, I mean, to sweep the Dallas Stars in the season, like, that would be a nice little tip in, like, this would be
Is this
good
the last one, or they got to be doing
no, they have
it.
one more. They have one more,
but
but
they got 4, right?
You want to keep this momentum going against Dallas because they are continually at the top of the Central. The Avalanche need this game to really flip things around because yes, we talked about yesterday what the rest of this week looks like. If you could get 2 against Dallas, and knowing that Nichushkin's coming back the week after, this is pivotal for the Avalanche putting things back together. They're already on a 2-game losing streak. You don't need to continue it into 3.
Yeah. And like you said, with the back-to-back, obviously you're getting a little bit of an up on that. But if to win this game, like you want to get these 2 points in regulation. Like
Yes.
that's where the key, because if they lose this game to the Islanders, which if you're listening to this, you know that by now, they'll be at 78, and if the Avalanche win it in regulation, you're now 1 point behind them. So with a game in hand, by the way, you will have at that point in time, you'll have a game in hand. So it's a big 2 points. So you don't want to go into overtime, which Dallas loves to go into overtime for some reason. So you want to get it in regulation. Now, we talk about like the usual suspects all the time with who plays with Dallas. They brought up their number one prospect, who is a guy that I was kind of hoping the Avalanche would take, and that's Logan Stankoven, which Shorzy would have a field day with his last name. But so what does that mean? I don't know yet, because he's tearing it up in the AHL. He's the leading scorer in the AHL. So it was only a matter of time before they brought him up. I don't know. I don't follow Dallas like that, so I don't know if it was because of injury that there was a spot for him and they brought him up, or it was just he's just doing. We can't do it. Like, he's doing so well down there. We got to bring. He's their number one prospect. He's in the mix. So it's a different wrinkle that the Avalanche, have to kind of pay attention to. I know he's young and it'll only be his third game, I think. But he brings something different to Dallas, which is a little bit more speed. He has an edge to his game. He's a good player. And I think like down the road, I mean, you're getting him early, so maybe he won't have that much of an impact. And it's his first game in Colorado. Maybe he'll have that deer in headlights look. I don't know. But just a name to throw out there, if not for this game, for the future, because he's got a bright one with Dallas. I don't know if you've really kept up with him too much, but I don't want to. I know probably a lot of Avalanche fans are saying like we're talking too much about a Dallas prospect. Hey, when there's a good guy out there, I don't care what team he plays for. I want to give him some credit. Stankoven's a good one.
Yeah, I have some friends that run in Dallas Stars circles. They've been talking about Stankoven, what he's going to bring to this Dallas Stars team, and honestly, after that run that they went on with the 9 straight wins and falling into this losing streak, I feel like they've kind of relied on him to fire this team up a little bit, because they were this team they went from like Stanley Cup contender, winner, contender. Like, this is a unit of a team to, okay, now they're kind of floundering. Now they're coming back down to earth. They bring in, the youth, the prospect, the darling, kind of usher him in a little bit early. And honestly, it sets up good for the Avalanche, because you mentioned they had struggles against Ottawa. Ottawa doesn't even have a goalie. Like, Forsberg's sitting on like 600 save percentage right now. Like, if you can't get goals on Ottawa goaltending, welcome to Colorado. We're fine here. We'll be just fine. Like this, if you can eliminate this new young, talented Stankoven and this Dallas Stars team, if you can eliminate this, Colorado could get a lot of wins in just this 2 points that you can get in this Dallas Stars game. You could carry this forward. This is a lot of momentum to be gained here. But on the flip side, if you let Dallas walk out with 2 points, it's going to be hard to catch them. And this could be a turning point for them as well that you really don't want right now.
And again, you'll know the results of that Islanders game if they end up winning that game, and then end up beating the Avalanche. They have separated themselves, and that might be too much to really overcome at this stage in the game. So, like we said on yesterday's episode, this is a great way to start the week. You don't have to look forward to this game and look ahead. It's starting your week off, and to get off on that right foot is exactly what you want to do. If you're with the Avs, you're laughing. What?
Yeah, this is the week to dust off your panic button.
Yeah,
it's if things start going south, no pun intended, with Dallas, like this could be where the trade deadline might not be enough. You have a lot of ground to make up here. This is a week full of central opponents.
It is,
and if you keep tumbling through the week, you're out of excuses. You're out of games in hand. You're out of all of these things that you built up at the beginning of the year, you're going to have to really start playing your best hockey now.
And, you always turn to the special teams, and Dallas has a very good penalty kill. 7th or 8th in the league right now. So almost 83% are killing penalties. And we all know what's going on with the Avalanche in the penalty or the power play. Although they finally got one against Toronto. So that's where it's gonna lie. It always lies in there. So should be an exciting one. And it's obviously a very, very big one. So we'll be talking about that one tomorrow. All right, let's get our last break in here and we come back. Fanatics. You love to hate on Fanatics, and what they're doing right now in Major League Baseball has a lot of hockey fans concerned. So we'll talk about that coming up next. First, this episode is brought to you by Camino Consulting, and you've heard our online families and couples course and taken advantage of the Locked On 25% discount running to the end of the month. But what about the live seminars in both sport and business? The challenge in differentiating candidates and recruits is an endless battle, and everyone can demonstrate their measurables and qualifications. But we all know it is the intangibles that matter when those things are similar. Contact Camino Consulting for their team and management seminars to get a peek behind the curtain and watch your next recruiting class or hiring group become one of the most effective you've ever seen, both because you've identified the right candidates and because you learned how to communicate and motivate them in accord with their own preferences. But you aren't in business management or working with a team, and we pay for referrals. Make some money making your workplace your favorite teams better, and favorite teams better. Every group works together better at the end of the year than week one. So contact Camino Consulting at caminoconsulting.ca and get on the fast track to understanding. All right, sir. So it's becoming a national pastime to really hate on Fanatics, and Fanatics is that clothing company that whenever you go to NHLshop.com or wherever sport.com and want to order jerseys or clothing, it's hats, shorts, whatever the case may be, Fanatics has their finger on the pulse of all of that. $billion company. The NHL signed a deal with them that goes into effect next season for a 10-year deal. I remember we covered this when it happened, and people, I think their eyes popped out of their head when they saw a 10-year deal for a company that hasn't done this yet with the NHL. This year, they have what is the situation with them in Major League Baseball? They're kind of under the same contract for Major League Baseball, but for hockey, it is like the Fanatics logo is going to be on somewhere, like with the little swoosh sign, or for Nike, that'll be Fanatics. For Major League Baseball, that's not the case. Is it still Nike, but Fanatics is making their uniforms?
Yeah, Nike is in collaboration with Fanatics. They have a deal worked out where Nike is like over Fanatics, but Fanatics is producing the Nike jerseys. It's a whole It's a wonderful thing.
So far in spring training for Major League Baseball, you're seeing the very poor quality of what Fanatics is putting out there, and this is on Major League Baseball players, namely the pants. You are seeing, like, when your jersey or your baseball jersey is tucked into your pants, the pants are so light you can see the bottom of the jersey and where it's tucked in. So you're seeing baseball players' legs and other unmentionables to keep this show PG. And this has, number one, it's not really that surprising. And number two, it has hockey fans really concerned with what is Fanatics going to do with the sacred hockey jerseys starting next season.
I'll step into it a little bit deeper. It's even worse than that. They are what usually is hand sewn on numbers and names. They're pressed on.
Is it really? See, I didn't even see that.
Oh, if you go
if
you look at there are whole threads dedicated to like the Cubs jerseys, the Mariners jerseys, logos are pressed on. The Yankees logo is so pressed on, like you could see the jersey pulling in different spots
Mm.
because it's not even on there right and correct. The name on the back of the jersey from
Those are the ones
Stitch,
that I've seen. Yeah.
it's now just pressed and inaccurate, and
And it's
it's not.
small. Like the name on the back of a baseball jersey used to cover like almost from like shoulder to shoulder, and now it's just like in between your shoulder blades.
And
The
it's not
name.
even in line. It's out of it's terrible. It's abysmal. And
Well,
that's it to see it on a baseball jersey. It's we can all have our fun and we can all look and laugh. But look behind me. Look behind Chris. These are
mm,
hockey jerseys, sweaters, elaborate crests, elaborate designs. Think of Arizona, think of Seattle, think of just these elaborate
mhm.
jerseys, these logos, long names, defining numbers and fonts. When you see it, you know this is my team. Imagine that altered. And that's for you in the store. Imagine
Well, yeah.
60 minutes of gameplay. What starts falling off? What starts shredding? What starts disappearing? If you have thin pants in baseball, we're on ice. That's frozen
Mhm,
water. These are going to get wet. These are going to get rough. These are going to get thrown around, stretched out, high sticked. It's
mhm.
going to be it's going to be bad.
You mentioned like it's weird because it's like I saw the names on the back of the baseball jerseys is things that I saw, and the pants, obviously. And I think just to like, the naked eye, or maybe like the untrained eye, or the people that don't really like focus in on like details, like people want that stuff, especially with a hockey jersey. They want the jersey that they buy for $300 to be on ice quality. And now even the on ice or the on field quality is not even that. Have they said anything that like all of what you're seeing right now in baseball is just preseason stuff or spring training stuff, and when the regular season comes, that's when they'll get the good uniforms? I'm trying to hold out hope that maybe that's the case.
Yeah, time will tell. Rob Manfred is kind of it's a blame game. Manfred's not you guys were complaining about Gary Bettman. We are lucky to have Gary Bettman when it comes to comparison of Rob Manfred in baseball.
Oh boy.
But he's going back and forth and blaming Nike on this, and they're pointing
No.
fingers. And we'll see once opening day in baseball, what the jerseys look like. Not sure, haven't seen any concepts or what they're going to look like, but if you're just looking at spring training, it's not good.
No, it this is it is a big concern, if you ask me. And it was even on John Oliver. I don't know if anybody out there watches the John Oliver show, Last Week Tonight with John Oliver. Whenever he goes from one segment to another to kind of transition into that, he always does like and now this, and it's always like a collection. Usually it's local news just from around the country that he edits together all on like one topic. He did one on how local news was like the females of the local news were like just like in love with these new fanatic pants because you could see through the players' pants. So it was so like the female news anchors were going crazy about it, and it just spliced together. It's reached John Oliver, it's reached his show. But like going like making fun of fanatics is nothing new. Like there's websites and Twitter pages dedicated to people sending in their fanatic horror shipments. And I remember when the Avalanche won the Stanley Cup, people would get hats with the logo, the Stanley Cup logo, and it's either crooked or it's off center. This is nothing like they've had problems for a while now, and it's all in the quality. And when the NHL announced it, people immediately were like, "Oh man, like that like there's you went from Adidas, no problems, to a big concern." And I'm not saying that, a baseball jersey is not as important as other sports, but a hockey jersey, a hockey sweater you don't mess with those. And it's more than just like the quality of it. It's, simple like stitching and everything like that. And if Fanatics doesn't get it right, people are going to be calling for Gary Bettman to end this 10-year deal after year one. We'll see
And
how
see,
it goes.
and the thing is, baseball they could carry this, they can move on from this, they could make a pivot, and it's fine, and it's just something to laugh at. The NHL really does not need another PRL. They don't need
Right.
another loss. Like after everything that they've already gone through this year and the years before, and it's just controversy after controversy and bad PR and bad take and melting ice and low ratings. If you turn on the NHL now and you have next year with these new jerseys and you have ripped jerseys and logos falling off mid game and it just and it just looks terrible and just like a minor league production, it's going to be hard to get eyeballs back on the NHL, and the league does not need to step backwards any more than it already has.
Yeah, you're right. Wasn't it happening in like the NBA? I don't know if that was fanatic stuff, but wasn't there NBA jerseys that were just falling apart, or was
Yes.
it college?
No, that was
forget-
I remember
was it?
those were NBA jerseys, like logos were just falling off and
They
names
were,
and just shredding. I can't
and I don't
remember
know
who
if
was
that was fanatics or not. If it wasn't, then this is a problem,
yeah.
nationwide of who's making sports jerseys, just taking the easy route, taking the cheap route. So we'll see. Should have went back to CCM, if you ask me.
Oh yeah.
All right. That's going to wrap it up for today, everybody. Thank you for tuning in and making this your first listen of the day. That's always appreciated. We will be back tomorrow to discuss the very big game between the Stars and the Avs. Let me check the score one last time. Still 1-0, 15 minutes left in the second. So let's go finish watching that game. All right. We'll be back tomorrow. Thank you, everybody, once again, for tuning in. He is Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. I am Chris Maselli. This is the Locked On Avalanche podcast. We'll see you guys tomorrow.